cabinet appointments. Our Democratic friends are burning all the time they possibly can to keep the president from getting his outstanding cabinet selections in place so the government can function. But we'll soldier on here and get as many through as we can. The order that I set up last night, I think you're familiar with. We'll go to Mulvaney first, Pruitt second, and we're also going to do one Congressional Review Act resolution of disapproval in the context of the week, and that would take us through to the end of the week, unless there's agreement by our Democratic friends to allow us to confirm some of the nominations for cabinet that they feel and have said are basically not controversial. As you may have noticed, the non-controversial nominations are being held hostage while the more contentious ones are chewing up a lot of time. So we'll be back at it. The floor staff is well rested now and ready to go again.
Let me just speak, if I might, for a minute about Judge Neil Gorsuch. Again, we are very excited about his prospects. We think that the American people have recognized what a quality judge he is. There is a Gallup poll out that says he has an approval rating of 50 to 30. So I think the American people are concluding what most of us have concluded, and that is that this is a judge who is very well qualified, who's in the mainstream, has the temperament to be on the Supreme Court, and will judge impartially. And just with respect to the whole issue of temperament, he wrote 800 opinions on the 10th Circuit. 98% of those were unanimous. And so less than 2% actually were, and this is on a divided court where you had 7 Democrat appointments and 5 Republican appointments. So out of 800 opinions, 98% were unanimous. And with respect to him being in the mainstream, those cases that were appealed at the Supreme Court, all but one were upheld, and that one was vacated, and many of those that were upheld unanimously. So this is somebody who deserves an up and down vote in the United States Senate. There have been a number of our colleagues on the Democrat side of the aisle who have indicated that they believe he deserves an up and down vote, and we want to hold them to that, and we hope that the American people will as well. This is a judge who shouldn't be filibustered. This is someone who needs to get an up and down vote in the United States Senate, and needs to, on behalf of the American people, ultimately, I hope, be confirmed as the 9th Justice of the Supreme Court.
This week we'll be voting to confirm Scott Pruitt as the head of the EPA. When you take a look at the resources that we're blessed with in this country, you want to do several things with them. One is that you want to make sure we use them in a way that protects our environment. The other thing you want to do is make sure you use them in a way to help strengthen and provide for a healthy economy. We need people committed to public service who are committed to both of those two goals. The EPA, over the last 8 years, with its regulatory rampage, has really lost sight of the balance that we need between environmental protection and a strong and healthy economy. The EPA has been working in a way that I believe has been irresponsible and reckless. It's time to fundamentally change the direction of the EPA. Scott Pruitt is the right person to do that. As Attorney General of Oklahoma, he's somebody that protected the environment, worked to strengthen the economy, as well as to protect states' rights. So he knows the importance, as do all of us, of clean air, clean water, clean land. It's not an either or. It's not just a healthy economy or a healthy environment. We can and must have both. Scott Pruitt is the right person to be the administrator of the EPA.
As a member of the Intelligence Committee, looking at what the White House and General Flynn decided yesterday, I think was the right decision. General Flynn's service to the country over decades has been admirable. His service as the Director of Defense Intelligence was, in my view, admirable in the relationship we had with our committee and him at the time. But if you're going to be the National Security Advisor, your credibility has to be absolute. And so I think that was the right decision. Certainly I wish General Flynn well. The Intel Committee, the Intelligence Committee, is looking at what the Obama administration left on the table about Russia and our elections. Chairman Burr and Senator Warner will decide who comes before that committee. But I think it's likely that General Flynn will be at some point asked to come and talk to the committee about both post-election activities and any other activities that he would be aware of.
Nancy?
What type of investigation do you think would be most appropriate when it comes to General Flynn's actions and his resignation? And what's your biggest unanswered question right now?
Well, with regard to our involvement in it, I think Senator Blunt just gave the answer I would give, which is the Intelligence Committee is already looking at Russian involvement in our election, and they have broad jurisdiction over the intel community writ large, and they can look at whatever they choose to. With regard to White House personnel decisions, I don't, it's the President's call. Everybody at the White House serves at the pleasure. He can speak for himself on that. I think it's pretty obvious why he decided to make the decision he did.
Senator McConnell, you talked a moment ago about the state of play with nominations here. Andy Puzder seems to be the most controversial one from the Democratic side. There are 4 Republican senators kind of on the fence here. Are you confident that one will get through? I know that's not even in your queue yet. He is hearing Thursday.
Yeah, well, look, it's hard to tell who's controversial and who isn't, since they're throwing up opposition to everyone, including holding hostage those that they claim are not controversial. I'm a strong supporter of Andy Puzder. I think he's uniquely qualified for this job. We hope we'll be able to get his hearing this week and deal with him when we get back. But I'm a strong supporter of Puzder. I think he's a great choice.
Senator McConnell, are you confident that President Trump did not direct Mike Flynn to talk about the issue of sanctions with the Russian ambassador?
Look, you'll have to ask the White House those kinds of questions. I think the fundamental question for us is what is our involvement in it and who ought to look at it. And the Intelligence Committee is already looking at Russian involvement in our election. As Senator Blunt has indicated, it's highly likely they'd want to take a look at this episode as well. They have the broad jurisdiction to do it. And any questions as to why the President did what he did ought to be directed to the White House.
Should Intel look at that?
Actually, I'm wondering if you could give the President's reactions as far as the concern about leaking of these documents. The FISA angle, is this going to be looked at as far as whether or not these documents should have been leaked at all?
Roy, you want to?
I think there are a number of unanswered questions that need to be answered about the documents, about whether there was a FISA order. There are lots of things that I assure you that Intelligence Committee members will be looking at, and I think we'll be talking about that even later today and later this week.
Okay, thanks.
Dave.